Well, welcome back. It is day 27 as we continue going through the book of Mark together. We're wrapping up Mark chapter 10, and we're going to start in verse 32. So here we go. They were now on the way up to Jerusalem, and Jesus was walking ahead of them. The disciples were filled with awe, and the people following behind were overwhelmed with fear. Taking the 12 disciples aside, Jesus once more began to describe everything that was about to happen to him. Listen, he said, we're going up to Jerusalem, where the Son of Man will be betrayed to the leading priests and the teachers of religious law. They will sentence him to die and hand him over to the Romans. They will mock him, spit on him, flog him with a whip, and kill him. But after 3 days, he will rise again. Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came over and spoke to him. Teacher, they said, we want you to do us a favor. What is your request? He asked. They replied, when you sit on your glorious throne, we want to sit in places of honor next to you, one on your right and the other on your left. But Jesus said to them, you don't know what you are asking. Are you able to drink from the bitter cup of suffering I am about to drink? Are you able to be baptized with the baptism of suffering I must be baptized with? Yes, they replied, we are able. Then Jesus told them, you will indeed drink from my bitter cup and be baptized with my baptism of suffering. But I have no right to say who will sit on my right or my left. God has prepared those places for the ones he has chosen. When the 10 other disciples heard what James and John had asked, they were indignant. So Jesus called them together and said, you know that the rulers in this world lord it over their people, and officials flaunt their authority over those under them. But among you, it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first among you must be the slave of everyone else. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Then they reached Jericho, and as Jesus and his disciples left town, a large crowd followed him. A blind beggar named Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, was sitting beside the road. When Bartimaeus heard that Jesus of Nazareth was nearby, he began to shout, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. Be quiet, many of the people yelled at him. But he only shouted louder, Son of David, have mercy on me. When Jesus heard him, he stopped and said, tell him to come here. So they called to the blind man. Cheer up, they said. Come on, he's calling you. Bartimaeus threw aside his coat, jumped up, and came to Jesus. What do you want me to do for you? Jesus asked. My rabbi, the blind man said, I want to see. And Jesus said to him, go, for your faith has healed you. Instantly, the man could see, and he followed Jesus down the road. Well, a couple of things to unpack in this 20 verses that we read here today in Mark 10. First of all, we see that it begins with Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem, and he knows what's going to happen. And he tells the disciples yet again so that they are prepared. He's letting them know, I'm going to be arrested. I'm going to be betrayed. I'm going to be beaten. I'm going to ultimately go to the cross. Jesus knows what is happening, and then he is always sure to include the last part. I will be raised back to life again on the third day. Jesus knows what's going to happen, and he is leading the way toward Jerusalem. He has counted the cost, and nothing will stop him on his way to the cross. It is no different with us and our lives. God orchestrates all the steps of our lives down to the final detail. I want to remind you and reassure you, there are no accidents. There are no surprises. Every day in our life, our God is fully in control. He is in charge. We can trust in him every step of the way. As we've seen earlier, not only are the disciples clueless about the things that Jesus is saying and totally not getting what is about to happen as they're walking to Jerusalem, but they are also arguing and trying to position themselves and establish greatness in their own eyes. They completely miss what is unfolding right in front of them. And so James and John are saying, hey, you know, can we ask you a question? When it comes to your kingdom, can one of us sit on the left of your throne and one of us sit on the right? They have no idea what they are asking. And Jesus responds gently, but also firmly and with grace. He asks them a question. Are you able to drink of the cup I'm about to drink? To drink a cup is the idea of someone sharing in that person's fate. It is plain that James and John have no idea what Jesus is saying because they are quick to agree. Sure, we can drink of that cup, no problem at all. The other 10 are probably angry because they haven't thought of what James and John did first. By earthly standards, self promotion is right, but Jesus teaches by heavenly standards could not be more wrong. Verse 45 is the key verse of the whole Gospel of Mark. And let me read it again for us. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Again, this is the ultimate reason Jesus has come. We also are sent to serve as followers of Jesus. The reason we needed a ransom is because all of us, like sheep, have gone astray. We all willingly, gladly sold ourselves into the bondage of slavery to sin. It is what identified us, it is what we look to for life. Rebelling against God, we thought led us to freedom, but instead it was a trap. And so Jesus paid the ransom that we owed. And when he purchased us, sin, death, and Satan had to set us free. This is the mission that Jesus came on. Jesus is on the way to fulfill this mission. He is laying his life down as the perfect Lamb of God. He is on mission, and yet we see in the story of Bartimaeus, Jesus takes the time to stop what he's doing, to make sure that no one who needs help is left behind. He doesn't get off mission by stopping. Instead, we see that Bartimaeus is actually part of the mission. And so he is simply crying out. Bartimaeus is simply crying out, Son of David, Jesus, have mercy on me. Just as we saw earlier, when the disciples tried to keep the children away from Jesus, people are telling Bartimaeus, stop talking, stop trying to be a distraction, stop trying to get Jesus to come over here. He's too busy. In fact, he's on mission. And instead, we see that Jesus hears this man and he tells him to come to him. Jesus heard the cry of Bartimaeus the same way that he hears ours. And he responds simply and quickly to the cry for grace and mercy. Grace is a gift from God. Faith is how we receive that gift from God. This blind man who asked for mercy and asked simply to be able to see now becomes a follower of Jesus, who's able to physically see with his eyes. The good news is Jesus stops for anyone who calls his name. And there is hope for everyone who by faith looks to Jesus for salvation. Well, that is how Mark chapter 10 ends. Join back with us tomorrow as we continue to unpack the book of Mark. We only have 5 chapters left, and I can't wait to see you again for us to continue to learn and understand who Jesus is and what he's doing in this gospel. Thanks again for being part of this journey. We'll see you soon.